Hey guys, GG, and today we're going to be covering all the DLC 4 settings in France, including what will be in the map, from the giant robot to the weapons to the buildables, and the characters, including a new code and much more, because as of now, we have sufficient evidence given to us by Treyarch that everyone just has pieced together, and we're also going to be using playthegamecentral insider information, and these guys are just completely awesome and have given us all the details on maps before it was even released, such as Mob of the Dead, and all their theories have been proven spot on correct, so I'll be using them as a source in this video, so many thanks to them. Now, DLC 4's map will be called Tombeau, set in a village in France during World War I. This map will be the biggest and craziest out of all the other maps we've seen before, even bigger than Transit, and Treyarch is going to be ending the Black Ops series from here. So this map will also not be made by the Zombies team like in Mob of the Dead, but by the single player team, but they do know exactly what they're doing, so there's no worries about them. So in the map, there will be trenches, open fields, forests, farms, shops, a village, a cemetery, and a small town. The village could be Verdun due to its history that also fits within the map description with its trenches and cemeteries and such, and also this huge hint here where if you take a look at the Mob of the Dead loading screen, the newspaper article here states October 17th, 1917, and for those wondering about the correlation between Mob of the Dead and DLC 4, the same team created both of them, so the clues on the Mob of the Dead loading screen will relate to the DLC 4, but anyways, on that day was the German invasion of Verdun. Now, if you studied world history, which I actually took last year, in World War I, what they would do would use trenches because all they had were open fields of land and they needed protection, so they dug long holes in the ground to be hidden from the enemy, and they even named it trench warfare, so that explains the trenches and open fields in the village. So I'm thinking that the trenches could help navigate on the map as they were along, with even underground shortcuts, so maybe there'll even be like a no man's land where you can see zombies like crawling out. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's basically the middle of both enemy trenches that nobody went to unless they want to be killed on sight. Maybe you could even like stay in the trenches and defend against the zombies spawning in the middle. So for the cemetery, they needed a place to contain all the remains of the soldiers who died during the Battle of Verdun, and it was located within the Verdun battlefield, and there's also a lot more memorials around Verdun, so the map name Tombeaux with an X at the end could also be plural, and they're all important, so we might encounter several throughout the map. Here is what the village could look like before the war, with the town and the shops and a dirt road, and here's what it would look like during the war with everything crumbled and destroyed and just a complete wreck. What we also know is that we'll have a vehicle like the bus in Transit, but this time it'll be a tank, because it'll be during the war and they use it for transportation, although it is very slow, and this was a primitive design of the current tanks we have nowadays, and it might only have like a cannon attached to its side. This will also be buildable like how you built the plane on Mob of the Dead, and you can actually you also have to refuel it, someone like how you refuel the plane as well, but probably not so tedious where you like had to grab all the parts again in the same locations. But as you guys can see here, already there is a lot of similarities between Mob of the Dead and Tombeau. The next big thing is the giant. It's confirmed that there will be a huge, strong, possible boss that will be mechanical and a machine, and I'll discuss it briefly, but if you guys want, check out a huge Easter egg with the Master Prestige emblem and Maxis that's a dead giveaway to this being true, where I go more in depth. Link to that will be in the description, or you can just take a look at my previous video. But basically, another clue from Mob of the Dead loading screen, when decoded, it says the giant is in France, and through teleportation, it was stationed in the tomb, possibly like the tomb of the unknown soldier that's also in France, and that was another memorial for unidentified soldiers. So after the setting, the tank, and the giant, we now have news of the weapons. So since it's in World War I, we'll be using bolt action rifles, LMGs, and pistols. So speaking of pistols, we actually know of one that could also be a buildable, and it's called the Mauser Prototype CXX. A link to that video where I go more in depth will be in the description, where it's some sort of a hybrid that's also like combined with other gun parts. And also, during the time, they used turrets in the trenches to fire at the other side, and they were actually really heavy and really slow, but this could also possibly be another buildable and a gun you could also mount and use. So again, this adds to that. You can also like stay in the trenches, lay down the turret, and advance rounds by doing so. We also have a new wonder weapon, but at the moment we don't have much news on it. But once we do get more news, guys, I'll be sure to post some information about that. So finally, we have the old characters returning before Richtofen performed experiments on them. So Takeo can speak fluent English and not just like some Japanese words. And Nikolai is not an alcoholic. I also go more in depth with this with the diaries released by Treyarch and David Vonderhaar's tweets asking the community if they wanted to stay. That's also in another video. But now we have a next code on Twitter from one of playthegamecentral members, Ben, that stated, "It is World War One. The stench from the trenches reaches as far as the village. We can hear it, closing in on us, the giant, the alpha. We now become mobile." And we know that note is probably by either Takeo, Dempsey, or Nikolai, but that seems like it was written when they all met up, and it seems like they need to use the tank to move around or go through the trenches as the giant is approaching them. And something else that's actually pretty interesting, that's the alpha. So we still have some mysteries, but that's a lot of the insider information and information we put together using the clues so far. So this was a huge informational video, and I would definitely appreciate it if you guys could leave a like rating, as I'm sure like you guys are really informed and just excited as me about DLC 4. And don't forget to check out the other zombies videos in the description below where I go more in depth on separate subjects. And please don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment down below on what you guys think about this. So that's it for today, and I'll be back shortly. Peace.